Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is both amazing and difficult at the same time. The Passport Mommy, Michelle Jerson, is here to share in your journey.
It's amazing. It really is, just watching them grow and see how much change and how much they learn just without the filters around them.
Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy, and I'm so glad you joined me today because I have with me my good friend Marshall Stevenson, dad, New York City comic, and we both have children around the same age. I have an almost 3-year-old and an 8-month-old. He has a beautiful girl who just turned 3 years old. So we have a lot to talk about when it comes to toddler topics. And one topic that I wanted to get into today was the why topic, because my daughter is there where she's asking lots of questions, which I think is wonderful. And then when you give her an answer, why? Then you give her another answer, why? And it goes on and on and on until I have to, it really tests my creativity as to how much I can tell her and to, help with her curiosity. So Marshall, you were telling me today that your daughter asked a question. You live in New York City, so you see a lot on a daily basis.
Well, why are we doing this topic again? All right, that was
because.
No, I have to say though, and before we start talking about this, is I think that you need to change your attitude toward this, because I so excited about getting why questions.
Oh, me too.
Because
no, I love it.
If your kid is getting why questions, that's how they learn. So I do not. I love it. I just keep answering. I love it. It's like a game. I love it. Now, when you get asked about the homeless and other difficult topics in New York City, we see a lot of crazy stuff in New York. You know, part of the decision of living in New York with a child is to not be all that sheltered, right?
Right.
Although, incidentally, my parents tried to shelter me. I grew up in New York City. So you see like prostitutes, with their Johns and like in a phone booth, and then I wasn't allowed to watch an R movie. So like they tried to shelter me. Anyway, you see a lot of homeless people on the street. And so today we were coming out of the subway and you just saw this guy who, looked very down on his luck, no legs, in a wheelchair, just sitting at the top of the subway stairs, kind of asking people for change. And why? Why is he sitting there? Well, he wasn't asking for change. So it was like, well, why is he there? I could have said, well, he's asking for, but he was just sitting there. And it's like, why? Well, I said, he may not have anything else to do. Aren't we lucky that we have plans? He might not have anybody to see, and that's sad.
Oh, that's such a great answer.
But not so easy when they are, sprawled out, sleeping in the middle of the pavement. And he'll be like, he's got nothing better to do but just sit out face down in the pavement. That answer doesn't work so well.
Right.
So we were at Penn Station, and she saw a guy sleeping there. I was like, why is he sleeping there? So now I say, well, he may not have a bed. Right. And that's sad that some people don't have beds. And I said, it's part of why mommy has to go to work and daddy has to go to work. And when you say, well, why is mommy at work and not here? She has to make money so you can sleep in a bed and not on the floor of Penn Station.
Oh, that's so good. So did she learn
wait
that?
a minute. Well, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, but I do get the same thing. Like, why? And you tend to, if you ask a question and it's like, wait a minute, didn't we go over this yesterday? We got on the bus today. So there's no school today because it's Lincoln's birthday or some weird thing. Like I thought we stopped celebrating, but there's no school today. So our schedule is totally off. And we're on the same bus we take to school. And it's like, well, why are we getting off next stop?
Right.
Well, because we're changing to the subway to go where we're going. Why? Why? What's that out the window? I was like, don't we take this route every day? What do you mean, what is that?
Every day's a new day. That's wonderful. She's learning, she's seeing, she's taking it in. But that's funny.
She's learning my attitude, because then tomorrow, what she's going to learn is she's going to be like, "What's the matter with you? Don't we go this route every day?" She'll say something like that back to me.
Oh man!
She's
So
like,
what
that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, where did you get that from? Oh yeah, me.
Yeah. That's funny. So what else is she asking why about? What other things come up?
It's just so interesting, just observing and why. It's only annoying if you ask the same question over and over again. Most of them are like, I don't know. It's everything. Like, why are we getting on this bus? Why? I want to go to story time now. Well, story time is not now. It's at 11. So we're not going now. Why?
Right.
I'm just like, because it's at 11. It's later. Why? Well, that's when everybody can meet for story time. The lady who does story time can only meet at 11. Why? Well, I don't know. Maybe she has an appointment earlier than that. Why? Well, I don't know. Maybe this appointment was something related to something that she needs to do, but she didn't tell me. All I know is that story time is starting at 11. Why?
I know. And you know what's funny? And it's funny to me. It's amazing, actually, to me that most kids these ages do that. Like, where does that come from? I just think developmentally, it's so interesting to watch children, because you might think, oh, it's just my daughter, it's just my son doing that. But no, it's so many kids around that same age. And all of a sudden they're at that Y stage. And all of a sudden then they're at another stage. And it's incredible.
I just think that people get frustrated by it, and if you can kind of zen it, it's really good, because I will answer a question 10 times. I'm just like, I'm so happy she's asking these questions, because really our objective is to have her learn.
Right.
So if she's asking these questions, then she's asking to learn. And I have not resorted to because I said so yet, and partially because I got that when I was a kid, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
Or worse. You'll learn when you get older.
No.
Well, I agree. What does your daughter see and ask why about?
Let's see. What did she? I was trying. After I asked you that question, I was like, "Oh, can I pull out examples?" Because it just comes out of nowhere about everything and anything. It's just, I don't know. The other day, what were we talking about? It's kind of like what you just said. Why is story time at 11? It's pretty much anything. Like, I don't know. Why did they do this today? Or why does that look like that? Well, then you give an answer, and then it's why, and it's how long. I look at it as a challenge. Like, how much can I keep it up? How much can I keep coming up with different responses?
Well, I do have a little hack here. She always wants to, for me, I have a hack for my daughter, if it's useful for you. But she always wants to say that she understands what's going on. So if I want to really shut her up, I'll give a long-winded answer and then say, "You understand, honey?" And she'll be like, "Yes," whether she did or not. Right. That's the hack of ending it. But I try to answer the question. It sort of keeps you on your toes to have legitimate explanations, because it's sort of a challenge to, if they ask you, why mommy isn't home yet, you she's hitting traffic. Why? Why is there traffic? Well, there are a lot of people out today. Maybe she left a little later. Why? Well, boy, it's challenging just doing it with you, because this is a made-up story. So, but I try to give real answers. I try to actually explain what's actually going on, because you realize that they're listening. And so if you could totally screw a kid up by explaining things all weird. Exactly. Mommy's not here today because her parachute hasn't opened yet. You could totally just they could go through life completely, just confused about everything. You could completely sabotage their upbringing. If you so wanted to do that, but that's not what this show is about, is it? No, but it is amazing to me how they really, when they say kids are a sponge, it is so true. I am just fascinated by something that I may have said, I don't know, a year ago, that she then brings up
then and starts talking about, and I'm thinking, wow, I haven't mentioned that or sang that song in so long. And it just goes to show that she absorbs everything. So even when I think I can get away with something or she didn't hear this or that, she hears everything.
And it actually, I mean, we've talked so much about giving them experiences, whether you should go on a vacation and all that, but like when they absorb stuff, it's not just what you say, it's what they see. And I read something recently that, because, I'm no expert. I don't know jack about kids, but, we see this stuff, and they actually get more, the more they do and the more they see, they actually get more confident and then because they can operate in different kind of context, and it's really good for them in that way. It's not just for the learning.
Wow, very interesting. So we have about 30 seconds left, and I want to continue talking with you for most of the rest of this show because I have a lot that I want to share, and I want to hear an update on some other things by you. But coming up, I want to talk to you next about just the whole debate about antibiotics and putting your kids on antibiotics when they're sick and whether or not we should do it and what doctor do we listen to? Do you take them to a doctor? Because I've been having a lot of mom guilt over the last couple of weeks, and I kind of wanted to run it past you and get your take on it.
Bring it on. I will decide whether you're guilty or not.
Okay. You're listening to The Passport Mommy. I'm Michelle Jerson. We're here with Marshall Stevenson. More coming up in a bit.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
We're speaking with Marshall Stevenson, and we're talking all about our toddlers because we both have children who are around 3 years old. His turned 3 about a month ago. Mine's turning 3 next month. And Marshall, I have to tell you that the last 2 weeks, so your daughter's in preschool, mine's in daycare, which means she's coming home with some sort of virus pretty much every single day of her life. And it makes me cringe because before I enrolled her in daycare, she was a pretty healthy girl for the most part. And now she basically always has a cold. But what happens after these colds are ear infections. And about 2 weeks ago, she spiked a really high fever. Like I'm talking 106. And it really scared me. And I kept doing it with the thermometer, thinking, is this right? There's something wrong with the thermometer. And then I took off her clothes and still it only went down to 104. Brought her into the doctor. They said she had an ear infection. One said antibiotics, but she had just been on antibiotics for an ear infection the month before. And I wasn't so keen on putting her right back on them again. And then there's other doctors. We went to an ENT, and their school of thought is, just wait, because a lot of ear infections go away on their own. And if they're viral, which many are, medication's not going to help. However, she still has really thick mucus and her ear infection. So I don't know what to do.
That's a tough one. I mean, overuse of antibiotics is rampant. I mean, because doctors use it kind of either to cover themselves or because they have nothing else in their toolbox. Somebody comes with this isn't just a kid, they'll come with a sore throat. And it's like, hey, give them antibiotics. And the problem is that the bugs that these antibiotics are supposed to kill, they become resistant. And then the worst problem is that because our healthcare system the incentive is the profit, the pharmaceutical companies have very little incentive to make antibiotics because you take them for 2 weeks and they're done. They'd rather put their money into something they can put you on for the rest of your life. So we're running out of antibiotics now. So antibiotics should be avoided if possible for public health. Like if we're using a lot of antibiotics, we're not going to have them anymore when we really need them.
Right.
Number one. Number two, there's all kinds of things with antibiotics with gut bacteria and things like that. Now, I am far from the person who says you shouldn't get inoculated or, those kinds of things, like go to the doctor, get your vaccines, those kinds of things. But antibiotics, if one doctor said wait and one doctor said do it, wait.
Yeah. And that's what I'm doing.
Because that other doctor is probably just doing something because he's given to you because he wants to give you something.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because I might be switching pediatricians after this because, so we went over the weekend when she spiked the really high fever, told she had the ear infection. Then I said, you know what? I'm going to wait a few days. And I took her back in on Wednesday to get rechecked by her normal doctor. The one on the weekend was just the one on call. And her normal doctor gave me such an attitude when she said you should take the antibiotics. And I tried to question and just kind of ask, okay, if I hold off, what kind of damage, what are my risks here by holding off? Because obviously I don't want her to end up with hearing loss or a bone infection or anything more of a complication from an ear infection. And her response to me was, because I had said, well, when could I come back in to get them checked again if I hold off? She's like, well, you don't want to keep going to the doctor all the time. And she was really short with me and really nasty. And I thought, you know what? And she said, she's like, I'm not one to push antibiotics, but I think that she should take them this time. So normally I would say, okay, here's somebody who doesn't normally push them, and I'm going to then trust her. But with me, she's always pushed them. So I'm not really sure, right or wrong. And that's why I took her to the ENT who said,
my kid has never been on an antibiotic.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
And by the way, there's some speculation that antibiotics when you're very young make you less. Yeah, I mean, basically your bodies are supposed to fight these things off. So right. Antibiotics are a miracle because they kill things that our bodies can't fight off. But if your body can fight it off and you're not in too much agony, you should let your body fight it off. If it goes on but anyway, if the doctor's short with you, yeah, I think the doctor has a personality issue because the doctor is supposed to work with you and is not supposed to be short. Because if you're short with a doctor, every study, Michelle, has shown that when a doctor is short with you, you're less likely to ask questions, and it actually leads to less good care. The doctor has to be the kind of person where you feel completely open even to ask a stupid question. And if you don't feel that, you need to change your doctor.
Exactly, because she makes me feel rushed. Then she read me the riot act about why I took up her 5:30 appointment to check her ears. And I said, okay, well, they knew why I was coming in. They gave me the appointment. Where is that my fault? And so
why don't we do this topic? What makes a good doctor? This person is terrible.
Yeah,
Get rid of her. What are you doing?
I know.
What's your quandary here? Go to a doctor, get a second opinion. Is your daughter in a lot of pain still or is it getting better?
It is getting better. So for about a week, her fever kept coming and going. And that's why I was concerned, because it was more than just the 2 days that they say a fever should last with an ear infection. So the fact that it kept coming and going, I thought maybe her body really is trying to fight this bacteria, and maybe it is bacterial and not viral. So but now her fever's been okay the last couple of days. And I went out and I bought an otoscope. And granted, I acknowledge I'm no doctor, but I said, I want to look in her ears and I want to see what these doctors are seeing for an infection so that maybe I could at the very least monitor it a little bit so I could kind of see if things are clearing up or not.
Yeah, see if it's getting better.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what
Wait a minute. If it is getting better, then there's your answer.
Let's talk about this in the next segment because we have to wrap this segment. So you're listening to Passport Mommy. I'm Michelle Jerson here with Marshall Stevenson.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Talking with Marshall Stevenson about the debate of whether or not to take antibiotics when your child has an ear infection and just what makes a good doctor. Because I was saying that about 2 weeks ago, my daughter spiked a very high fever for 2 days, and I took her into the doctor. They said she had a double ear infection and to take the antibiotics. But she had just been on antibiotics a month ago for ear infection. And I wondered, did it ever even get better? Because literally the day she was done with the antibiotics, she had another, what seemed like a cold virus. And so I wonder if her ears actually ever drained. And then it's the whole debate of, is it viral? Is it bacterial? Because if it's viral, then taking antibiotics isn't going to do anything. And Marshall, I was saying that my doctor, when I questioned it and was trying to weigh out the pros and cons, was really short with me, to the point that when I was asking her a question, she said to me, I think we're done here.
Yeah, you got to ask this doctor. Like, come to our doctor. Our doctor's great.
Yeah.
She takes our crappy insurance. There's never in a rush.
Wow.
So far, so good on the advice. She's not alarmist. She hasn't prescribed any medication at all, really, except one time. And, yeah, we like her.
Has
Never.
your
If the
daughter...
doctor's short with you, they're not going to give you good care because you're going to, be less likely to ask questions.
Exactly. I feel like she's pushing me out all the time and that she's always rushed, and I don't like that one bit.
Then she gave you attitude about taking her appointment that her staff gave you?
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly. I wanted to give her a piece of my mind, but I was like, you know what? I'm in front of my daughter. And all I said to her was, well, if we come back to get her ears checked again, what's a good time for you? Because this is the time your staff gave me. And, but I'm just curious, have you ever brought your daughter in for an ear infection? Has she ever had an ear infection and was told to hold off on the antibiotics?
No, we've never had these issues. I mean, as I told you, I know it makes me sound like a crazy person, but we've always been allow her to get dirty with germs, no Purell, that kind of stuff. And so far, so good. She's had colds here and there. She did have one bad chest congestion incident like a year and a half ago. And they said if we, it could become pneumonia. Like, it was pretty bad. I don't remember if we did more than Tylenol, Advil.
Yeah.
Because that what they thought was viral, but I don't know. No, we haven't. What's our secret? We haven't had no ear infections.
Wow, that's great, because they say that young kids are prone to more ear infections because their eustachian tubes are more horizontal than vertical, or vice versa. I think it's horizontal when they're young kids. And so sometimes the fluid from a cold or virus or the flu gets backed up in there and then it can't drain. But I feel like, my daughter has had a constant cold pretty much since she started daycare, which really aggravates me. Because I wonder, is it because they're not keeping the place clean? Is it because they're spraying too much? Because that's an issue I had when I first started her at her daycare that she's at now. She would come home smelling like bleach. And I said, well, that's not good to be breathing in either.
No, it's bad.
Yeah.
No, so every piece of research, again, I always have to qualify this with I'm the crazy person. Every research has suggested too dirty is better than too clean. It's not healthy to be too clean.
I know. I don't know what to do about it, because it just, part of me wants to pull her out of daycare because I can't stand that she keeps getting sick. But then the other part
I don't think that's right either. I think they actually build immunity in daycare. I think it's better to have more exposure. We talk about this a lot. It's one of these things where there's a really bad flu going around and there's actually warnings and stuff, then you take her out. But I think in the long run, the fact that she's getting these colds now, her body is strengthening to these illnesses. I wouldn't think twice about keeping her there, even if she always has a cold. Now, when you change doctors, you might have a better person to ask than a comedian, and that would be better.
But you know what?
We know more than this doctor that you're with now. This quack that you're going to, who tells you, "Oh, you got a thing on your arm. Take an antibiotic. Let me give you an opiate."
No, I know. But so we took her to the ENT. I took her to the ear, nose, and throat doctor because I did want a second opinion. And he said they're waiting on the antibiotics, but he looked in her ears and he said, yeah, she has a lot of fluid and there's some pus in there. And he checked her hearing, and her hearing is temporarily, it's not so good. It's being blocked from all of the fluid. So he did say that if that continues, it could affect developmental delays. So I'm bringing her back there in about a month or two to get monitored again. So I feel like as long as her fever is not really high and she's not complaining, I'm going to let it go for a little bit. But it's so funny because you have parents that are very strong and they say, no antibiotics, you don't mess with the ears. So there's always so much guilt of whether to wait or not wait. But I'm with you. I feel too much antibiotics is not good.
I think the guilt is totally misplaced. You do your best to make the right decision. You read up, you ask the right people, and then you go with whatever it is. And if it was a bad decision, as long as you made the decision properly, you can't feel guilty about that. It's like everything else. Like you can't, as long as you and my wife spend time feeling guilty over things they did right. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're obviously doing everything right as far as thinking about it and asking questions. Feeling guilty is waste. And that, then you'll get sick and need an antibiotic because the stress from the guilt compromises your immune system, and pretty soon you'll be lying in Penn Station, because you're.
Great.
Can I do a callback to another segment? People listen to the whole show.
Yeah, that's a test. But yeah, I know what you're saying. But I think as a mom and dad, but I think moms analyze more. So I think women in general just tend to agonize and analyze whether we're making the right decisions. And even though we might be, we just always think, but what if we're not? And what if this can happen? And what if that? And I think every day of our lives is a big decision for our kids, whether it's, are we sending them to the right place for daycare? Are we giving them the right medical treatment, the right foods? What about, did we yell too loudly today? Did we not be patient enough?
This explains a lot, because my wife, who happens to be a woman, feels guilty about it. She's like, am I doing the right thing? I'm like, you're doing great. Look at the kid. She's amazing, right? What's the problem? Of course, she has her own idiosyncrasies. Everybody has a reason to call the social worker. And right. God willing, you have, minor issues.
Right. Exactly. Of course. Oh, your wife and you're wonderful parents, but I just think it's it's just within us as a mother to always worry.
I think it's because people hold dads to such low standards that I get praised when I'm walking in the street with my daughter. Oh, you're the dad. What a great dad. I'm like, all I'm doing is standing here. What do you mean I'm a great dad? So maybe it's because you guys are always under this implicit or explicit criticism that you're always feeling. But I'm like, hey man, it's like, hey, listen to Stevie Wonder's song. I love you. That's why I'll always be around. That's your commitment. It's just to be around. It takes more than that. And I'm thinking that's the standard that dads are held to, so maybe that's it.
Yeah, it definitely could be. And I think that we always just innately want the best for our children. And so it's a lot of pressure on us to know, are we making the right decisions for them to make sure that they are the happiest and healthiest that they can be?
Well, you got to listen to this show. And if you listen to this show, you have all the tools you need. And then you just do. And you just, if you mess up, you mess up.
Yeah, exactly. And you learn from it and you move on. And like you said, you know what? That is a good song to refer to, though, because when it comes down to it, what I think kids mostly need is love and attention from their parents. And all those other decisions, maybe you felt you made a wrong one here or there. But if you show them love and attention and caring, that's really what they're going to need and learn.
Yeah, I think that's well said. It's kind of like this thing, you look at kids who do well and don't do well, and all the parents are obsessed about bedtime and stuff, and it's like the kids are causing trouble, the kids whose father beat them. Not the one who went to bed at 9 instead of 8. The reality is, when you look at who does well and who doesn't do well, by whatever standard, you're going to say the kids who did well were the kids who had stable, safe, loving families, and that's what it is. It has nothing to do with particular small, I give her chocolate in the morning. Is this going to ruin her?
Right. Oh, speaking of which, with the few minutes that we have left, so one thing that's been aggravating me is that now that she talks more and tells me what goes on at daycare, she's been coming home and saying, and I try to feed her healthfully. She's like, I had donuts today. I had munchkins. Oh, yeah? What's your favorite? Chocolate jelly. And it just goes against everything.
Chocolate jelly?
Yeah. So I'm like, wait, you had a chocolate. She's like, I had two. I had a chocolate and I had a jelly donut. And it just...
they don't serve that kind of stuff at our school.
That's good.
So they gave that to her at school?
Well, I think kids bring them in for whatever reason, and they just give them out as snacks, but it drives me crazy.
I wouldn't worry about any of that either. I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't worry about any of that. I think that when you have a decision to make about what to buy her, you buy more healthy, and then she gets invited to a birthday party and she eats 12 pieces of cake, and I think that's fine.
Right. Every so often I do, but go ahead.
I wouldn't worry about that at all unless she's showing signs of not eating proper, like bad eating habits, like she's overeating and if she's overweight. But I wouldn't worry about that. Like she had 2 munchkins at school. Kids, I'm starting to think that everything is evolutionary, like everything we do when it comes to who we're attracted to and everything in our biology is evolutionary. Everything that motivates us, all our behavior is evolutionary. And so the reason kids want candy is because it's got a lot of calories and sugar in it, and they need calories. So it may not be as bad as we think. Just don't let them smoke cigarettes. That we know. But like a munchkin, I'm not so worried. I don't worry about that.
But what you said just now about the eating habits, that's my issue. It's not the isolated munchkin, because now we'll go into Whole Foods, which is her favorite place to go into. And she says, I want cupcakes. I want cake. And she goes to the cake and the cupcakes aisle and she starts pulling those off the shelves. Whereas before daycare, she didn't know what cupcakes and cake tasted like. And so now she'll come home from school. I want crackers. I want cookies. Okay, would you like to try this other healthy vegetable for dinner? No. And where
so after you ditch this crappy daycare and crappy doctor, then you'll be in good hands. Because look, if they're teaching her bad habits at daycare, then you might have to find a new daycare.
I don't know. Yeah, they're pretty open. I mean, I think I just need to talk to them again and remind them that I would like the sugar kept to a minimum.
By the way, my kid does not eat anything. My kid actually used to eat 10 things, and now it's down to 5. Wow. She doesn't eat anything. She wants white rice, pizza, cornbread. Then there are a few items that her grandmother makes that she will eat, but only if her grandmother makes it. So, like chicken, grandma's chicken.
Right.
No chicken. I'm like, you want to go to McDonald's? Get the chicken nuggets? They're delicious. No, only grandma chicken. White rice. What do you want for dinner? White rice. We'll go to an all-you-can-eat buffet with like 1,200 items on it.
Right. She'll
be sitting there eating white rice, French fries. It's like, what do you want to take? And then she'll like push everything off the plate. No, Daddy, no. Like, God forbid I put a tomato. It's an incident on the plate.
Right. That's so funny.
Nothing.
All right, fine. I'm going to stop complaining about my daughter.
But you know what, though? You know why I'm not worried about this? Well, one, because I'm not a woman. You already established this, that women feel more guilty. But two, this is one of the things, they're picky eaters when they're little. Really, you just have to set the right example. They'll grow out of it. I was a totally picky eater when I was a kid. Now I'm such an adventurous eater, I will order the weirdest thing on the menu.
Oh, that's great.
They'll grow out of that.
Yeah, I do believe that. I believe they'll learn and they'll decide how they want to eat as they get older. Marshall Stevenson, thank you so much again for joining me today. Always so much fun chatting. I look forward to catching up about our toddlers next week or in 2 weeks from now.
Anytime. Love doing it. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. Coming up next, we are going to talk about how you can reduce the cases of seizures if you have a child who tends to have seizures or you yourself. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
So I have an almost 3-year-old and an 8-month-old, and I have to say the other day, my 3-year-old had an extremely high fever. She almost started shaking a little bit, and I thought, uh-oh, is this a seizure coming on? Because I know that it could happen if you have a very high fever. Thank goodness it wasn't. But you know what? There are plenty of parents who deal with more than just even the occasional femoral seizure from a high fever, but they have a child who may have epilepsy. And it can be very scary if you don't know what you're dealing with at first and how to handle it. So today we have Dr. James Wheelis. He is a professor and chief of pediatric neurology at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. Hi, Dr. Wheelis. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to your listeners and to tell them about the exciting news we have about the goal of achieving seizure freedom for most of our patients.
Terrific. So tell everyone just briefly, what is epilepsy and what causes it? And why is it so important to minimize these seizures?
So epilepsy is a common disorder of the brain. It can be caused by many different things. So it can be caused by a stroke, head trauma, infections, or even, genetic or family causes. For some folks, we don't identify a cause. That's not that uncommon. But for all of these folks, the good news is with advances in therapy, we can usually get them to seizure freedom. And I would think of the epilepsy much like kind of an electrical storm in their brain. So the brain normally operates off small electrical signals, and when we have this electrical storm, we short circuit that. It flows out into the body, and that's when we see the manifestations of the seizures. And the seizures themselves can be quite debilitating. I mean, they can, depending on the consequences. If someone falls, they could injure themselves during one, so it could be a physical injury. If it's a child, they could have developmental delays if they have ongoing seizures. If it's an adolescent or adult with ongoing seizures, they could even have cognitive impairment. And the worst case scenario is if someone's having convulsive seizures in their sleep, they could even die during a seizure.
Wow. Okay. So tell me, what is some of the treatment that you work with, and how is it going, and how does somebody make sure that they stay consistent with their treatment?
I think that one of the major advances in recent years is that many of our newer treatments are available in once daily options, and this makes it a lot easier for them to fit into the patient's lifestyles, where they can not have any lapses and miss medicine, where they can be consistent with taking their medicine. And then the other big advance is that we have several medicines now that have what we call a long half-life, which means that even though they take it once a day, the medicine persists in their system longer than that. So if they're late for a dose or miss a dose, they still have medicine in their system and they're protected from having a seizure.
That's terrific, because people are busy and it's really easy sometimes to forget to take medication. So to know that you just have to remember once and that it stays in your system, I'm sure is very reassuring. So if a parent has a child who is having a seizure, what should they do immediately?
Yeah, and this is the benefit of this, talking to you is, getting folks educated is huge, obviously, so they know what to do, because they're going to be around someone that has a seizure at some point. It's 1 in 26 Americans. If they fall down, they have a convulsive seizure. People cannot swallow their tongue, so do not put anything in their mouth. Keep them safe so they're not hitting anything hard or sharp. Turn them on their side, support their head, and then just be there as they come out of the seizure. They may be confused. They may not know what happened. Just kind of supportive, be calm. Just, tell them, hey, you just had a seizure. I'm here with you. Just, be that person that's there for them.
Sure. And if, say, we see a stranger and we don't know their medical history, do we call for medical help, or do we just say, okay, they're out of their seizure, they should be okay now?
Yeah, I would be there for them, kind of do the things we just talked about. If the seizure is stopping on its own, most seizures last a minute and a half. If you're there, it'll seem much longer, so time it.
Right.
But if they're coming out of it, stopping on its own, just be there. And when they come out of it, say, hey, you had a seizure. Can I help you? Can I call someone? Do we need to do anything? If it's not stopping, if it's going on, past that point, that's when we say, yes, we should, get medical help involved. It's not stopping on its own.
Got it. Okay, so tell everyone, where can they go for more information just to learn about this new medication that can help with epilepsy?
There's great information available. The website is a little bit of a play on words. It's epilepsy.com, so it's EPILAPSEY. We've named it that just because we really want patients to avoid any lapse in their care that could lead to a seizure. We want them to achieve this goal of seizure freedom.
Perfect. That's brilliant. I love it. Dr. James Wheelis, thank you so much for joining me today. Very informative, because I know when somebody witnesses somebody else having a seizure and they may not be familiar with the signs, symptoms, it can be very scary. And it's great to know that there is something out there that can help you stay on track to minimize your chances of getting one and relapsing and getting more epileptic seizures. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great rest of the day.